What's up, guys? Welcome to Roensch Capital Charts. Today we're taking a look at Palantir stock, ticker symbol PLTR, on a variety of time frames in anticipation of the next trading day, Wednesday, March 6th. Alright guys, Palantir stock here today, Tuesday, down 23 cents a share, 0.96% to the downside at the end of the day. Now what's interesting about today's movement is we did see a volatile morning, but at the end of the day, I mean, a less than 1% move in either direction for Palantir, especially as of late, is really not that massive of a move. The stock is up 11 cents as of right now in the after hours. As always, take after hours with a grain of salt. The volume is going to be low, but of course, if you're a bull, you know, it is the real price, so I'm going to prefer that it's higher rather than flat or down. But let's start with this name here today on the 5-minute chart and do our daily volume profile analysis ritual here by taking a look at the volume and trying to determine, okay, were there any big changes in volume that correlate with obvious moves in stock price, but again, are outside the scope of what is typically expected at that time of day? Because you have to understand that when we're looking at the volume profile, a lot of people will look at like a big move off the open, for example. And you'll have bulls looking at this move and saying, wow, what a move on big volume. But we have to understand, and this goes for a bearish move as well, we expect volume of that size off the open. That's not out of the ordinary. What we're really looking for is something out of the ordinary. So the moves that I'm looking at here today are really like these. I would determine these as kind of 3 different moves: the down, up, and then fade. Okay, each one of them is kind of a move in and of itself. So if we look at the volume, you can see that we did have slightly elevated volume on the red moves compared to the green move, but I will say that when we look at it in the lens of being contextual based on time of day, the truth is it's really not out of the ordinary. So, I mean, bears, I wish I had better news for you, but for me, this 5-minute chart is kind of a wash here today. And honestly, it's kind of a net neutral, right? That's not really a positive or a negative thing. It's just, unfortunately, we can't pull a little more bias out of this particular chart. So let's not waste any more time there. Let's move on and take a look at the self-fulfilling prophecy levels that I'm going to be paying very close attention to come tomorrow. These are psychological levels, right? These really are nothing more than a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why I have the most popular moving averages that we can possibly utilize on a very popular time frame. So the white line's the 50 period, the gray line's the 200 period, and we're on the 30-minute chart here, okay? So let's take a look at this. By the way, listen, if you're new here and you have not done so already, please subscribe to the channel. My goal is to hit 5,000 subs by next week, and that's it's only going to happen with your guys' help, so I greatly appreciate it, and if you do, I'll do my best here to provide value every single day. But looking here, you guys remember when we talked about this last night, if you caught last night's video, we were talking here about we had kind of broken beneath and held beneath both of these levels. Now, we had already done so on Monday's trading day, or I'm sorry, Friday's trading day here, right? Yesterday, of course, was Monday. But we had done so on Friday in the after hours. So we were looking for a more definitive stance here out of the stock. We got that yesterday to the downside. So we were talking a lot about how, hey, you know, on the 30-minute chart, wouldn't it be great to reclaim one, if not both of these levels? We actually tested both of these levels today. We rejected off the 200 period, but we have now reclaimed the 50 period, but it is in after hours. And again, we need to take after hours with a grain of salt. The volume is going to be lower, but what I'm looking for here on the 30-minute tomorrow from a bullish perspective is going to be a hold of that 50 period during regular trading hours, and then ideally a high volume move off the 50 period to reclaim that 200 period. Bears, kind of a similar deal, just opposite. You would ideally, though, like to see a crack downside below that 50 period on anything other than below average volume. You want average, ideally above average. The more volume, the better on moves that support your thesis. It's a bigger sample size, right? So that's about it here for the 30-minute chart. Let's move on now and head over to the 4-hour chart and take a look. You can see that the 4-hour is also very much so in play. We are right up against that 50 period here. Last night, Monday night, right? We were kind of testing that range, right? And we kind of faded below in the after hours. So I was interested to see what we could do here today. We have now dipped below, and we're kind of testing that back to the upside as a potential resistance. So what I would love to see here come tomorrow's trading day, Wednesday, right? From a bullish perspective, is a crack back upside, a retest of the 50 period. right? And then a high volume pull away up toward 25, which we'll get to here in a second on the daily chart. Bears, really simple. You just want to hold beneath that 50 period, ideally on average or above average volume. Anything except for below average volume, you want to hold that level as a resistance on a big sample size of opinion. Now, let's move on to the most important chart of all, which in my opinion is always going to be the daily. The reason is this has by far the most eyeballs. Every fund, institution, retail investor, retail trader is looking at this exact chart. The moving averages are not really in play as of right now. They're both below 20 bucks a share. So as always, we have to look at this chart and say, okay, what's the clear story here? Now, yesterday, the story on Monday heading into Tuesday, today, the story was 24 bucks a share. Now, Tuesday as we head in to Wednesday, to me, yes, we've dipped below. The stock's down about 23 cents, but to me, the story is very much so still 24 bucks a share. If I'm a bull, I want to see a reclaim of 24, make that a psychological claim of support, and then again, use that to make our way up toward 25. Use that as a little boost. Again, a higher volume move up toward 25. Bears, we're already below 24. You're going to want to see us hold that as a resistance, which we have not really seen done so in a few trading days going back to February 22nd, 23rd. And I guess you could argue the 26th as well. You guys, you bears, right, would like to see a repeat of that. Hold 24 as a resistance and a hard fade downside to 23. I'm sure you'll see some traders taking some trades, both bullish and bearish, off of that $24 region, depending on how we see that get played out tomorrow, if we see a hard test of that tomorrow. Now, implied volatility, for those of you interested in the stability of the stock and or trading options, you can see it is relatively low compared to the last couple of months here. Just understand that that is going to create a more favorable environment for new options traders looking to buy contracts, okay? It's always a good scenario to buy contracts while IV is low, if you expect to, of course, be directionally correct, and also you expect to potentially see a return to equilibrium from implied volatility itself. Of course, in this case, equilibrium compared to the last few months on IV is somewhere around maybe 70%, 68, 70%, somewhere in that region. That being said, let's take a look at the bias that we got out of the options traders themselves here today, not out of the ordinary for Palantir. We have 273,000 contracts, 179,000 calls approximately, and about 94,000 puts. That is a call side bias on the overall ratio. And if we break this down by time frame, that 0 to 20 delta range, again, those are going to be the short-term speculators, those out-of-the-money, gambly style contracts. In that range, we're seeing about 50,000 calls and about 28,000 puts. Okay, so we're seeing an overall call side bias, a short-term speculator call side bias, and then really we go down every other delta range as well. This has been very common on Palantir as of late, is also leaning call heavy. If you got value out of this video, please subscribe to the channel. I'll do my best to continue to provide you value every single day. Thanks for jumping on board, and I'll see you tomorrow.